right, today we're talking about something that I think everyone struggles with at some point, and that is just lack of motivation, not feeling like they want to do the things they need to do to move forward. Because no matter how disciplined or consistent you are, you're not always going to feel like it. You're not always going to want to train or meal prep, stay on track with whatever your habits are.
Everyone has those days, right? Where it feels just easier to just skip the gym, or hey, you know what, let's order takeout, or hey, I'll just start again, or I'll start on Monday. And that's normal. I think a lot of people beat themselves up over it, but I think we all have those issues. And so motivation really isn't meant to be a constant thing. So in today's episode, we're going to break down how to navigate those moments when you're just not feeling it, how to still move forward, even when your motivation is low or non existing at all, and how to make consistency automatic, no matter what your mood is.
Yeah, I that reminds me, Layla Hermosi. I love her, but she always has this motto. She's like, "Fuck your mood, follow the plan." Doesn't matter how you feel, just stick to the plan. And I feel like it just sums it up so perfectly.
Yeah. But even then, it's still sometimes it's easier said than done, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Before we get into that, a lot of people were asking me on my red light because I said I would update people on it. They want to know like, does it work or like what are my thoughts? So I figured I'd give everyone an update on here for those who wanted to know. Personally, I still haven't seen any changes. Like I haven't noticed any difference in my recovery or my skin or anything like that, or even sleep. I don't know. To me, it's just like it hasn't been like people are hyping it up. You hear all these great things, but I haven't had that experience. So take that for what it is. Maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm not doing. I don't know, but so
Well, I want
people
to
are
agree
thinking.
too because, like you said, everyone's hyping it up, and you see so many people doing it, and they're not just like it could be good, it might be good. They're like, oh, this is like amazing and like beyond anything that they've seen type of thing. And so so are you going to keep doing it then, just in case it's doing something like maybe mitochondrially? That's not even a word, but but I mean something like internally that you really can't measure.
Yeah, I mean, I will. Like, I have it. Like, I'm gonna keep using it. Just yeah, because in case it is doing stuff and I'm just not noticing. Like, maybe it's just one of those things where it's more subtle and it's not those dramatic changes. And also, I just like it for the routine aspect. I do like waking up every morning and just going and sitting in front of it. That's when I do some work, or like I might just go and read in front of that. So it's like good for reinforcing routine and just having structure with that. And just like it feels nice sitting in front of it. So I'll keep doing it for that and just see what happens. But yeah, other than that, I think people again, like take this for what it's worth, like have your own experience with it. But for me, like it's definitely not worth paying that much for a panel if I'm not like feeling the benefits of it. But you never know. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What's been up with you though?
Oh, getting ready for Thanksgiving. Oh, I spoke to my parents today. I don't often talk to them, and that's just because we're busy, and just maybe it's because I'm a guy and I don't talk to my parents as much, type of thing. But I had a good conversation with them today. It was good catching up, and I did want to talk about one part of the conversation that I had with my dad. We were talking about getting older, and a lot of their neighbors are getting older, and they're, both he and my mom were trying to tell me that they're trying to keep their routine just in life, right? They're still trying to do things to keep their minds sharp, do the normal everyday things that they've always done. And for example, mom was like, "I'm still cooking every day," and my dad's like, "I'm still eating." Yeah, well, that was kind of cute, but yeah, my dad's still he's like semi-retired, like he's a psychologist, but he's not seeing like a full load of patients. He still sees a few patients here or there, and he still really enjoys it, but it's not overwhelming in terms of the time aspect of it, and so but he was talking about he was like he loves to read. And he was like, even if I'm getting older and I'm not able to read like I've wanted to at a level that I've always read, I still want to read something. He said, I tell my clients that too. He said, as they, he was like, as they age, they don't have to quit doing the things they really enjoy doing. He said they can regress some, but it still has value. He said, for example, the reading. He said, I was talking to a client who's like, well, I love to read, but I've had some health issues and I'm just not able to read like I was before, so I'm just not reading. And my dad was like, no, like still read. You don't have to read that like 350-page high level novel. You can still read some shorter text, or there's so much technology out there now. There's just so many different options, and I was like, oh, that's so good. That's very similar to like our advice when we were talking about the fitness journey. It's like a lot of people are just so into the all or nothing. It's like, oh well, I won't have time for my full workout, so I'm just not going to do it. or I don't have time to cook this really nice meal that I really want to cook, so I'm just going to order takeout, or whatever. But anything, like for example, the workout, a shorter, less intense workout still has tons of value. And this kind of goes into our conversation that we're going to talk about motivation and consistency. But I just thought it was pretty cool because I never really thought about it like that outside of the fitness training. There's just anything really in life, especially as you're getting older, still do the things you love. Maybe you love taking long walks and you're just not able to take those long walks. So take a shorter walk.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's the key to consistency. That's the key to showing up, especially on those days when you don't feel like it or you feel like you can't do stuff. Even me, when I don't feel like reading, I'll just do a page. If I feel overwhelmed, I'm like, oh, I don't have time to dive into a full journal. I'll just do like my little gratitude section. So yeah, there's always something you can do, and I think getting over that all or nothing mindset is what is going to propel you forward and allow you to continue stacking those wins and just get 1% better every single day.
Yeah, I think we're really hard on ourselves just in general. So if like your goal is to read like a chapter a day and you read like a page, you're like, oh, I totally failed.
Hmm.
Instead of reframing that and be like, hey, at least I got my page in. I did something today.
Yeah, I definitely get caught up in that because I hold a high standard for myself, and it's like I want to achieve all these things, I want to check all these boxes, and sometimes, especially recently, I've just been so overwhelmed and struggling to balance everything, so I just feel like I can't, and then I feel like I'm a failure, and I feel guilty, and so it's this vicious cycle, and so I think giving yourself grace, especially through different seasons of life, and knowing that hey, you're still showing up, you're doing this, and it's going to look different in different seasons of life, so you can't beat yourself up for that.
Yeah, I've had some conversations recently with some clients about just being overwhelmed about some things and a lot of stressors coming up. And I think that's, kind of like what you're saying, like we overwhelm ourselves with so much going on, and then we get stressed out, and then we get frustrated, and then we kind of get, some kind of low level of depression type of thing or whatever. And because we're not able to do this, we're not able to do that, or we're not able to reach this goal. And really we just need to kind of slow down and say, okay, let's just do one thing, one kind of self-care action today. It doesn't have to be a lot either. Like you said, go for a short walk or do a mini workout or cook a simple meal type of thing. So yeah, so it was a fun conversation. I thought it definitely related to what we've been talking about and what we stress to our clients as well.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the conversation my coach has been having with me because I'm like, I'm stressed about being stressed. And he's like, you gotta fucking chill with that. I'm like, well, I'm stressed now about you being stressed about me being stressed about you being stressed.
That's one big stressor.
Yeah, so it's also been interesting too, just because I've been like I've talked about, I've really been focusing on trying to reduce stress as much as possible, trying to prioritize sleep and prioritizing all the things I need to do for myself. But it can be really hard and overwhelming too, especially just this last month of work has been super crazy. And then I feel like my new coach is just like trying to get me to add in all these things. And I'm like, it's too much. I'm like, I need to revert back to the baby steps. Even I told him like, yo, like you're giving me too much at once. I just need like one little thing. Let me focus on that. He's like, all right, cool. So it's like, even I need that too. It's like, we can't go and overhaul everything at once. Like start with little baby steps and through different seasons of life. So you need to approach it that way.
Yeah, and I feel like someone can tell you like, hey, you just need to chill, or hey, you just don't be so stressed out. But that doesn't really help us out because, and even if they gave us like the best advice, we still have to kind of, I guess, internally figure that out ourselves and figure out a way to, yes, you're all right. I do need to chill out. That's a great idea. But you ultimately have to figure out, okay, how am I going to not let this affect? How am I going to slow down a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yep, making a lot of tweaks to my routines and my schedule and my time blocks and everything. So we're adjusting and finding what's going to work best for me.
And like with you, everything's going to work out in the end, right?
Of course. Yeah. So, getting into the topic with motivation, I think for one, it's important to touch on that myth that is motivation because motivation is not what creates results. It's the result of taking action, not the other way around. Most people wait until they feel motivated to start, but if you're waiting for motivation, you're going to be waiting forever. Action creates momentum, momentum creates motivation.
Yeah, getting started on anything is I like to relate it to like reading the first chapter of a book. In the beginning, like nothing feels real meaningful, right? You barely know the characters, the plot's not really clear. You really don't care enough to be excited about anything, right? But you stick with it, the story unfolds, those same characters start to matter, you start getting invested in them, you begin to understand their motives, the world makes more sense. suddenly like, oh man, you want to know what's happening next, and what the character arc is going to look like. So motivation kind of works the same way. You don't really care at the start because you're just not invested in anything, and you don't get invested until you get going long enough for things to just really start to connect. And the first pages feel slow, not because the story is boring, but you just haven't met it yet, right? So keep turning the pages, you'll start to care. And when you're lacking that motivation, the goal is not really to be inspired. The goal is to just take one small action that moves us forward, even if it's not the perfect action. And most of the time, it's not going to be that perfect action.
Yeah, and that ties into exactly what we were just talking about. Take one small step, even if it's not everything that you want to do. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. One small step is going to move you forward. You're going to, one, feel good in yourself for following through. You're going to start building a little bit of that momentum. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So, boom.
Yeah, and motivation's an emotion, right? And we have emotions. It's okay to think about our feelings and to give it space, but it's going to come and go. It's very fleeting. Discipline, on the other hand, is a skill. It's something that you build. So you can't really rely on motivation to carry you through the tough days, right? You can rely on when everything's grand and amazing and you're first getting started with stuff, but that goes away that fades quickly, right? So you have to rely on the structure, have to rely on the habits, and you have to rely on the identity that you're creating for yourself. And when you build a foundation of discipline, you don't really have to think about it anymore. This is what we talk about all the time in terms of making things automatic and being consistent. You just do it because it's part of who you are. It's part of the identity that you created.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, but it's like brushing your teeth. You don't wake up motivated to brush your teeth. Honestly, to be honest, me, sometimes for whatever reason, I dread brushing my teeth. I'm like, I don't even want to do it. I don't know why. It's so weird, but I still do it anyway because it's what we do. It's non-negotiable. So that's kind of same thing with fitness or any other habits that you want to get in. It comes from doing reps, not inspiration. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing your identity as someone who follows through.
That was funny that you mentioned the brush. The morning, I like. I think maybe because I'm not quite awake yet, but I just get up and I do it. I don't think about it. But at night, I'm hanging out and I'm like, oh, I gotta brush my teeth. It's like why? It takes like what 2 minutes and then you're done. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Like of all the things that I don't want to do, it's like, why is it this? Who knows? So, what's your relationship like with motivation? Is that something that you tend to struggle with, or I guess what does that look like for you over the years and current?
Well, I really I think it depends on a few things. It depends on what it is I'm trying to get motivated about. If it's something I absolutely love to do, then it's much easier to get motivated. If it's something that I am not the biggest fan of, obviously it's a lot more difficult, and that's really where my routine comes into play and being consistent, just making things automatic. Like you said, brush teeth. I don't really care about brushing my teeth, whatever. But if I just get up and the first thing I do is brush my teeth, then it just becomes automatic. I don't even think about it. So it's interesting. We've talked about this before. Like for me, for workouts, like it doesn't matter what kind of mood I'm in, where I am. I'm going to work out. I love it. I enjoy it. I don't have to be motivated. I just do it. But there are a lot of other things that I have to do, and so sometimes I'll have to kind of talk to myself, figure out, okay, why is this important to me? Why do I want to do this? What's the worst thing that could happen? Sometimes I'm not motivated because I'm dreading something, and I have to think about it, say, okay, is that true? Like, is this really going to happen, or is it really going to be that bad? It's a lot of giving myself some space and time and kind of thinking things through.
Yeah. For me, like especially when it comes to fitness and workouts, like it's one thing that I've never cared about. Like motivation has been irrelevant. Because it's become such a part of my identity who I am. Like even on days where I don't feel like going to the gym, I don't even feel like it's lack of motivation, if that makes sense. I don't know how to really articulate that, but it is like it's something I'm gonna do. It's something no matter what. Even when I go through phases where like my training kind of sucks, I'm like, I don't necessarily want to go to the gym. I just know it's not going to be great. It's like I still at the same time do want to go. Again, like I'm not trying to articulate that, but like for me, it doesn't feel like motivation at that point. But I think where I do struggle to like get going with certain things, or I find myself dreading it or pushing it off or making excuses, tends to be with some of the other habits. like in particular spending time with God and just having good quality time to like go and sit down and read the Bible. That's one that just feels like this like big looming task. Or even sometimes my journaling, or just like getting out. In the past, it was like getting out and doing steps. That's pretty automatic for me at this point. And then especially with work, I feel like that's one thing. There's certain tasks where it's just they're not super thrilling or exciting for me, and then I find myself putting them off or just not feeling like doing it. And so those are the things where I feel like these types of tips that we're going to talk about, like that's where I'm applying them in my life, just because in the fitness mind, like that's good, that's locked in, that's a non-negotiable. I don't even think about it. But it's kind of with other things. So it does apply to every area of life, but especially fitness too.
Yeah, and when I think about those things that I don't need to be motivated for, it's almost like I don't even think about it. It's become so automatic, and so the more routine my day is, and the more structure I have, the easier it is because I don't think. I think I basically just take motivation out of the whole game. It doesn't matter whether I'm motivated or not. It's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a mentality to get into. I think this topic is relevant too because I've definitely been in a like a funk mentally this week, or at least the first half of the week. I don't even know why where it came from. I was just not feeling it, and so I think it's very applicable because I did implement a lot of these things that we're going to talk about, to move through it and continue to show up and do what I need to do. Because even in these times where I just mentally am not in it, I don't feel like really doing anything. It doesn't matter. Like I still show up and do all the things I need to do. It may look a little bit different. It may not be 100% to my capacity, but like I'm still checking the boxes, and it comes down to these things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and like we said, it happens to everybody in all kinds of different aspects of their life. So we're gonna get through, and we'll talk about different things we do as well, and then some just tips, just in general, to help you out.
Yeah. So first one is kind of just the power of minimum standards. When you're not feeling like doing stuff or low on that motivation, your brain tells you it's all or nothing, like we were talking about. If I can't do a full workout, why bother? If I mess up lunch, the day's ruined. I'll go and order takeout, whatever it is. And that's the trap that we fall into. The best thing you can do when you're in that state or when that motivation is low is to fall back on your minimum standards, the baseline actions that keep that momentum going. And so we use this with clients all the time. Again, it could look like anything. You can set these for yourself, but I do recommend everyone go in and set these minimal standards or these minimum standards. Like whether that's a 10-minute walk or hitting 80, 100 ounces of water, getting protein at each meal, or doing one movement or some sort of stretching mobility routine. Whatever it is, like have that baseline. So that way, even if you don't do everything perfectly, you still win the day.
It's super easy when you're feeling amazing, right? And you're in an awesome mood, everything's just clicking. It's so easy to do everything that you may not necessarily always be motivated for. So it's really about stacking those small wins when your energy is low and when you're not feeling it, and just do something. Just do a set of body weight squats or walk for 5 minutes. Make a simple meal. And that's really what keeps you from slipping into the like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to start over Monday, or I'll do that next week, or I'll start that next month, whatever it may be.
Yeah. For me too, like I think my minimum standards are some sort of movement. I'll get into the gym usually every day or I'll be playing volleyball. My steps for sure, I'm getting at least 12,000 every day. And then food, like I'm pretty dialed in with that for the most part. Usually I have my meal prep, but like at the very least I'm hitting my protein. So like those are the things that are non-negotiable, and no matter what I'm hitting those. Then of course there's a lot of, and I added prayer too to that. And then there's, of course, a lot of other things that I want to do really consistently that I'm probably doing like 95% of the time. And then, like, some days it's not exactly perfect or I'm just doing a little bit less of it. But I say, like, at the very bare minimum, it's like those are the things I'm hitting no matter what every day.
Yeah, mine are very similar. So I'm gonna add a couple of things too. So one, I would love, I'm not there yet. I would love to be able to go to sleep at the same time, but I'm not quite there. But I do wake up. The wake up doesn't matter when it is, where that's kind of like my doesn't matter what's going on. I wake up at the exact same time. I always get the protein goals in. And my step goal is a little bit lower because I can't get 12,000. I can get 10,000 every day. So that's really what I'm shooting for every day. And like I said, getting my protein in, and then yeah, prayer, of course. I have certain times a day that I like to pray, and those are kind of things that it doesn't matter what's going on. Again, it's not even whether I'm motivated or not. It just happens because I've structured everything to where that's just going to get done.
Yeah, even recently when it comes to the gym, like I was explaining on the podcast a little while back, like there's that phase where my body was just not recovering at all. I hadn't been able to train really at all, like to any capacity. I was just like on that perpetual deload basically. And that's when I like that was probably the most that I've ever not wanted to go to the gym. Just because like what is the point? I feel like shit, like I can't do anything. It's just going through the motions. But yeah, I still went, especially because I think it's more for my mental health at that point too. Is like I still just need to get in and move and do something. But even then, it's like I still had my minimum baseline. So like I went and showed up anyway. I did my deload type of workouts. I went and did mobility or some sort of active recovery. And so I think having those standards really does make a big difference, even if you go through phases where it's like this just sucks, or you don't want to do it, whatever it may be.
And if you've gotten to the point where you have set those, you feel like totally off. Like the day is just weird. Like you feel weird. Everything's just, if you've missed one of those or more than one of those. All right. So I think too, a lot of people look at a lack of motivation about they consider it to be lazy, right? It's all about laziness. Whether they look at someone and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they don't get motivated to go to the gym. They're so lazy," or they beat up themselves and say, "Gosh, I'm just so lazy. I can't do that." But it's about being overwhelmed in life, having just fatigue or being maybe disconnected to things. So if you've been running on stress, right, or overtraining or under recovering, your body's not going to want to push harder. It's actually going to probably push to not be motivated because it's like I need to chill, I need to hang out. And so maybe you've just lost that connection to the why you started. And we've talked about how important having a why, establishing a why, and having that kind of in the back of your head is at all times. You're going through the motions, but you're not really emotionally invested anymore. And so when that happens, because I think I don't know about you, but I know it's happened to me, you really kind of got to step back and say, okay, let me take a little wider angle here and say, okay, why did I start this? Why am I doing this? If you're going to the gym, you have no why, imagine it'd be super easy to be like, why am I doing this? There's no point showing up. There's no reason. So you got to have that established why, right? And it can change, but you do need to have that why. So what's the version of me that I'm trying to build? I like to do that with my clients. We're talking about, okay, how about future you, right? Is future you going to be happy about what we're doing? Is future you excited about the habits you're building right now? What would that version of me be doing right now? Right? If I looked at future Lawrence, what would he be saying? Hey, this is what you need to be doing. And that's what I want to be doing. And what would my future self want me to be doing at all times, type of things. That to me, I heard that a little while ago, and I just think it's been very powerful for myself, as well as being able to explain that and helping my clients through the times where it's just like motivation is gone. It's a little more difficult to get things going.
Yeah, that reminds me of our client we were just talking about before this. Do you want to share what he said? Because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, sure. So Tim, by the way, is a superstar and one of the coolest guys ever. But in our check-in, he was like, "Hey, I want you, if you don't mind, send me a text at about 5 or 6 o'clock, and I want you just to remind me, would future Tim be doing what I'm doing right now in about 5 hours?" So yeah, I had to laugh at that. But so of course I did. I sent him a text, started out. I said, "All right, here you go. Is future Tim excited about what you're about to be doing in about 5 hours?" So, and tonight he responded, he's like, "I'm pretty sure he would. I'm pretty happy about what's going on." So, his daughter just got baptized, so that was just a super huge win, obviously, for the two of them. Such a cool thing. But yeah, he's rocking life right now. Super proud dad.
No, he's awesome. But yeah, I love that frame and just what do you want your future or what looking back, it's like, do you want to be proud of what you did? Like, or even tomorrow, it's like looking back on what you did in the night. Like, are you going to wake up feeling proud of yourself, having that momentum? So I think it's a great question to ask because it's not always about pushing harder. It's just realigning. I think coming back to that why is so important. At least that's kind of what helps me a ton too, because you might just need rest or reset or a reminder of that bigger vision. Motivation fades when you lose sight of the purpose behind your actions. And so reconnecting to that why can help reignite it. That is a big one for me. Like I was mentioning, I feel more of the lack of motivation when it comes to some work items sometimes, just like certain tasks I have to do or just work things, or even just like when I feel overwhelmed with a bunch of calls that I have stacked up. And for me, it's always coming back to that why. As soon as I just zoom out and reflect and think on that, even for a second, immediately I just have a fire lit under my ass. I'm like ready to go, ready to run through a wall because that is so important to me. Like I have all these clients, this team that relies on me. I have no other option. Like that is the most important thing to me. That is why I'm doing this. And so like immediately as soon as I am, I'm like, oh, no brainer. Like I need to go sit down and do the shit I need to do. Like there's no other option. So it just becomes so easy, like not a second thought. So having that deeper driving force is just makes it a hell of a lot easier. Even when you don't feel like it or when things are tough or it's you don't know how to do it. Doesn't matter. You figure it out because it's that important.
Well, I feel like it's very similar to one thing we always say is no one's ever had a workout and be like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And so I feel like a lot of times it's the same type of thing. We're not motivated to do something, and then we go through it, and they're like, "I'm so glad I did that. That was so well worth it." So just a thought as well.
And those are always the workouts that tend to be the best too. Everyone always says those are the ones that are best. And I think it's probably because you pushed through that discomfort or whatever feelings you were feeling and you went and did it anyway. You kept that promise to yourself and you feel even more accomplished, even if it wasn't the most amazing workout ever.
Yeah, it was that huge mental win, and that's what we've talked about. The gym is not just about building and stacking physical wins; it's about building and stacking a lot of mental and emotional wins as well.
Yeah. So for me, that's a big one. Just have that why. And if you guys don't have that, it's like you need to reflect and think about that. You need to have that deeper driving force on why you're actually doing it because otherwise, like you said, it's just going through the motions with no purpose. And then, of course, you're not going to want to do it. Or when things get tough, it's going to be easier to let it slip and fall off because there's no greater meaning behind it.
Right. Another thing I think people overlook quite often is your environment. I feel like the environment drives your motivation a lot more than willpower ever will. So if you're surrounded by people who don't value health, junk food everywhere, or spend like every night on the couch, it's probably going to be way harder to stay on track. So I think one thing too is kind of do an audit on your environment. You want to set yourself up to win. I remember someone had mentioned something in the break room one time. They're like donuts out or something, and she was like, "I don't know, I don't know how you have the motivation or the willpower to avoid all these donuts all the time." And I was like, "Well, I mean, part of it is I don't put myself in this environment all the time. Like if there's always food around, yeah, of course it's going to be very difficult to pass that stuff up. So I either avoid it or I kind of have that conversation. Going back to the why. Like, do I need this? Is future Lawrence going to want this and need this type of thing? So you want to set yourself up to win. So in terms of the environment, put your gym clothes out the night before. Keep your kitchen stocked with the food that your body loves. Keep your workspace clean. I saw one tip one time where someone who was just uber successful, they said, one thing I like to do is before I go to bed, I make sure that everything is ready to go for the next day. So I don't have any distractions, any barriers that prevent me from having just a superstar day. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Because I've had that desk that's like messy and you get to it and you're like, oh, and you got to clean it up. And you haven't even started your day yet.
I do this. I definitely do this. Like before I go, I cannot relax at night until my apartment is spotless. My clothes are laid out. I have my supplements prepped. I have my shaker cup filled with my other supplements that I take that I fill up in the morning. I have whatever I need, like whatever clothes for the gym or just like my laptop set up to take to the coffee shop. Like everything needs to be set up and I cannot relax until it's done. And then I look at my to-do list for the next day and I'm like, all right, what do I need to do? Prep. I'm like, all right, good. And then I can chill.
And that's one of the reasons why you're successful. It is because I've done both. I've done it where I've like everything is set up for the next day. And I'll just give you a little something. I've been making my lunch the night before, right? It takes 5, 10 minutes tops, right? So I've been doing it in the morning, no big deal. Whatever it is, I do it the night before. The next morning I wake up and it's just one thing that I don't have to worry about. And so I feel better. I feel more clear. I feel more ready to take on the day. It's just a little thing like that. But you're right. Just having everything set up. It might take a little bit of extra time at night before you go to bed, and you're probably sleep better knowing that when you wake up, your day is set up for you. We talked about removing the barriers and making the choices or making the easy choice the right choice, and I think we talked about environment. People can be part of that environment, and sometimes whether it's insecurities or just maybe this innocent, they can try to talk you out of things. Like in that break room, I've heard these comments before where someone's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have the donut. And then someone's actually like, you only live once, eat the donut,
Yeah.
and so again, going back, you really have to have that why, and you can't always. We'd love to be able to say surround yourself with people who have the same values, but you can't always do that. So most of the time you do want to do that, but there's gonna be times where you're in the break room. There's gonna be times where you're out hanging out with other people, and so you're gonna have to have that really solid why to be able to say, hey, you know what? Thank you very much, but I think I'm good. The other thing for me, I don't know what it is. You can tell me if you are the same way, but sometimes I'm like way more motivated if everyone is doing like I don't know how to describe this, like doing the opposite of what I want to do or type of thing. So like I'll give you an example. At one of the dance competitions, everyone's sitting down, right? And they're either watching the dances or just sitting in the hallway. And so a lot of people like bring in these chairs and they're just sitting around for like hours. And I was probably going to walk anyway, but I'm looking at these people and I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to be walking around and racking up my steps. So I'm just like walking around. I get like 17,000 steps or something like that. But so sometimes I see someone, I instantly go the opposite way. They're all eating all the stuff that I know I should be eating. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not eating that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I can't think of a specific example where I do this, but I feel like I do also have the mentality, at least when it comes to like health and fitness stuff for sure. I think because I'm just so secure in what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, good. Like if everyone else is doing something, it's like I want to be locked in. I want to be that 1%. I want to be doing the right thing. And so it's like even more motivation, I guess.
I'm also very stubborn. So if someone's like, you should be eating this, then I'm like, 100%, I'm not eating.
Right. And same goes for your inputs. What you consume affects your energy and your mindset. If you're scrolling negativity or comparison or just like on social media all day, you're not going to feel motivated. So listen to podcasts, follow the people who inspire you, revisit your own wins to get back in that right headspace. That's one thing that I have too. It's not necessarily in the sense for motivation, but just kind of a good reminder on the why, I would say, going back to our last point. It's like I have a album in my photos where it's just reminders of like messages from like you or other teammates and just clients that just reinforce why I do what I do. And when I'm in a bad headspace or just not feeling things, it's always good to go back to that. And I actually got one of those like digital picture frames that you can like send your photos to and it'll like switch which one. So I like put them on that so that way like I'm actually seeing them like in my kitchen. So
That's
that's another
great.
thing I do. Again, it could help with motivation for me. It's more of just like that why, not driving force, but that's something I do as well.
I like that a lot. But like you said, you gotta control the inputs. I think the technology thing, like Instagram or social media type of thing, is can go completely one way or the other. You can make that algorithm where it's just constantly throwing you things that are uplifting and inspiring and help you to stay linked to your why, or you can do the complete opposite.
Yeah, and just the mentality you take from it too, because keep in mind, whatever you're seeing, whatever you're curating on your social media, it's like 1% of the population. I was just talking to one of my clients about this today. He was seeing all of this negative stuff, like on a particular topic on the news. And he's like, oh my God, this is big thing everyone's talking about. I'm like, keep in mind, that's, yes, you're seeing all of it. It seems like everyone's talking about, but in reality, go out in the world. No one's going to say a single thing. It's not a big topic of discussion. It's because it's just in that little bubble. And like you're seeing everything and it feels like it's everyone and everything when it's just 1%. It's just a few people talking about it and it sounds a lot louder. And so I feel like that can kind of push you like into that comparison trap too. If you're just looking at people that are in super great shape, you're like, oh man, like why do I not look like that? Again, that could be motivating in senses like, oh, I want to do better, or it could be motivating, oh, like why even bother? So I don't know. It's just be careful with your social media too, and understand that it's not the end all be all.
Well, I think you make a good point too. You have to know yourself, right? You might be someone who looks at a picture of someone that looks like what you want to be, your future self, and it might totally motivate you, and you're like inspired and you're ready to hit it. Or you might be that person that sees that and just kind of beat yourself up, and you're like, "Oh, I'm never going to be like that. This is hopeless. It's pointless. Why am I trying?" And so you really have to know where you are with that.
Next tip that I use is called like I'll call it like the 5 minute rule, but basically tell yourself you only have to do 5 minutes. 5 minutes of your workout, of your movement, 5 minutes of journaling, or 5 minutes of meal prep or reading, whatever the thing is you want to do. And I think outside of just 5 minutes, it can just be like set a target. So it's like maybe 5 pages of reading, or 1 page of reading, 1 minute of meditation, 1 minute of prayer, whatever it is. Because once you start 9 out of 10 times, you're going to keep going. The hardest part is starting and building that momentum. So just like setting a very realistic target, kind of going back to how we opened this up with, is just like 5 minutes or just one thing and do that. And then it's going to be a lot easier to keep going from there.
Yeah, I hadn't heard this before, but I like it a lot. I like it a lot, and I think, like you said, I think a lot of the times you're probably going to keep going. Yeah, there's plenty of times where I'm like, I'm just going to do like, 10 squats or something. And then felt really good. Like, I think I'm going to do another set. So, but even if you did stop at 5 minutes, you promised yourself you wanted to do 5 minutes and you did it. So you kept that promise. And that's what's going to build momentum. And that's going to what's build self-respect and confidence. Say, okay, hey, you know what? I told myself I was going to do it yesterday. I did it. Today, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it. And then you start building that identity again.
Yep, it's a win-win either way when you check that box. And yeah, so I do this a lot with, in particular, reading or journaling or prayer, or, or even work stuff too. It's like I'm just going to do this one little item. Like, for example, I have to build out a new guide. And for whatever reason, there's just resistance, and it just feels like sometimes when it feels like this big thing, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to start. But I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do the title page and just design that. And then I get in, and like literally, I'm so hooked. Like 2 hours later, I'm locked in, and I love doing it. So it's just really just start.
Yeah, and again, I know sometimes you're like, yeah, but it's just hard just to start. But like you said, if you're just like, hey, 5 minutes, set a
Mhm.
timer. Set a
Yeah.
timer. Say 5 minutes. It's not that long. I can do this, and I think that's a great rule, great way to start anyway. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the lack of motivation isn't the real problem because we all have that issue, and more times than not, right? It's really how you respond to it. You can't control how motivated you are, but you can control your standards. Who do you want to be on the days you don't feel like it? And when you act in alignment with your identity, even when you don't feel like it, that's where the magic happens, right? That's when you're showing up for yourself. That's when you stop relying on motivation altogether and you start building that great foundation.
Yeah, motivation is temporary, identity is permanent. The more you follow through when it's hard, the more that identity becomes solidified. And so if you're listening to this and feeling unmotivated right now, that's okay. It's not a sign to quit. It's more of an opportunity to practice discipline and reconnect to that deeper why. So focus on those small wins, set your environment up for success, act your way into that motivation. Don't wait to feel like doing it, because the people that get results aren't the most motivated. They're the ones that keep showing up, especially when they're not. And so, do you want help building that type of consistency that lasts even when motivation dips? That's exactly what we do inside our Skool community. So we're going to teach you how to build systems, anchor habits, and show up no matter what life throws at you. We'll drop that link in the show notes. And overall, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Just go do something small that moves you forward today and go crush it.